Hi, this is Josh Kulp for Daf Shevui. We are learning Masechet Avodah Zarah. We are on Daf Lammed. But before I get into the video, you'll be watching this at a time when I am coming shortly there too to America for a short speaking tour in New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and Virginia. All the information about where I'll be will be on the internet, on the Conservative Yeshiva website, and I'll post it on my Facebook page, and I'll put it onto the Daf Shevui page too. So if you're anywhere near those regions and you'd like to come meet me, say hello. I really do love meeting people who tell me they learned Daf Shevui with me. We can talk a little bit about the Daf. You can answer some questions. And we get to meet in real life as opposed to just hearing and reading each other on the internet. So I do hope you come. So just a few topics that I wanted to go over from the Daf Lammed, the upcoming page. And the beginning of the Daf deals with the prohibition of eating food cooked by Gentiles. Jews are not allowed to eat food that has been processed or cooked by Gentiles, but the rabbis in the Talmud seem to be remarkably lenient on this one. As I've said before, it's because it doesn't seem to me that they really feel that eating food cooked by Gentiles, as long as it's kosher, is really going to lead to that much assimilation. It seems like the regular rules of kashrut, the Jews can't eat non-kosher ingredients, are probably enough to take care of serious amounts of high levels of assimilation, and that these extra rules are really not as significant. And therefore they relax some of them. They don't get rid of them, that is for sure. So there are two main leniencies. One is, and they both have to do with like sort of what I would call rabbinic style thinking. By rabbinical style thinking, I mean they analyze things, they categorize things, as opposed to being worried about practicalities. They're more worried about concepts and categories. So, for instance, what does it mean for something to be a cooked food? Well, simply, you would think that means it's cooked. But if something can be eaten raw, then in a sense it hasn't been transformed by the cooking because it was edible before. So one opinion is that if the food can be eaten raw, then the prohibition doesn't apply. And the other way of looking at it is to say, look, what is a real transformation of food? It's taking a simple food and turning it into a fancy food. That's a significant transformation. And fancy foods are those that are eaten at king's tables. So if it's a very simple food not eaten at a king's table, then it is permitted even if it was cooked by a non-Jew. A couple other restrictions that come up in the midst of this daf. The non-Jew must have the kavanah to be cooking and not to intend some other result. And especially important, I think especially telling, is that they waive almost all of these prohibitions if the Jew participates at all in the cooking process. Today, that means that in strictly kosher restaurants, what happens is the Jew comes on and turns on the oven, a very symbolic at most act, and the goy, the non-Jew working in the kitchen, can do all the rest of the cooking, as long as the Jew turned on the oven. Now, there still are some anti-Gentile, anti-non-Jew tendencies in this law, but you can see here they've kind of formalized it and really removed some of its more harsh effects. In essence, to a larger degree, written it away. In kosher restaurants, you have non-Jews working there all the time. You need a few Jews working there, but really most of the cooking can be done by non-Jews. So there's a concept I want to explain here that comes up in the daf. It is alluded to, and it's called noten tam lifgam, something that imparts a bad taste. Now, the particular issue that we're referring to here is when a Jew uses a vessel used by a non-Jew with non-kosher items, foods, and the taste of that food has sort of been absorbed into the walls of the vessel of the non-Jew. And then the idea is when the non-Jew, or really for that matter anyone, cooks in that vessel, the taste will go back, will come out of the walls and go into the food. That's the whole concept of having kosher dishes, is the fear that the taste from what was eaten there before will go into the new dish. Now, if the dish, the old dish, was used 24 hours before, then the taste that is imparted is considered notain tam lifgam, giving what I've translated here, a worsening flavor. And according to the opinion that dominates here in the Talmud, it doesn't create a prohibition. So if there's non-Jewish taste from unkosher food in the walls of that pot, or whatever it might be, and they cook kosher food with it, the fact that the taste that comes out of the walls of the pot are considered to be worsening flavors, then the dish is permitted. And you'll see that come up a couple times in this daf. There's one other issue that comes up in the end. I know this video is getting a little long, but it goes back to wine. And just a couple of notes again on relative leniencies. We're talking particularly about two issues here. One is this murias, which is sort of a fish brine into which wine has been put. And the other is vegetables that were pickled with wine. So a couple distinctions, interesting distinctions are made. One, if the wine is only there to get rid of the zuhama, not to get rid of the bad taste or something foul about the mixture, then the mixture is only prohibited to eat and not prohibited to derive benefit. The wine is going to cause a greater sense of prohibition if it's there for the taste. And then another leniency that comes up here is if the wine is not really present, it's not mamash, it's not really there, rather it's been absorbed into the vegetable, and people don't drink let's say the juices that are on the side, then the wine is only going to be prohibited in eating and not prohibited to derive benefit from. So those are principles that sort of relax the prohibition against wine. They don't make it permitted to eat it, but in later times, these will be, let's say, reasons where Jews will go one step further and make some of these things permitted for eating as well.